You are invited to notice the first stirrings of pattern in your life, those repeating whispers beneath ordinary moments. Quietly observe where your attention returns and what sensations ripple through your body when possibility appears. Allow this gentle noticing to become a practice, a way of tuning the inner antenna to energy that previously went unnoticed. As awareness deepens, you will begin to discern the cadence of opportunity, like a distant tide that rises and falls. Trust that these small recognitions are the beginning of a larger map that guides your choices. Hold space for curiosity rather than immediate interpretation, and let the subtlety impress itself on your perception. This opening scene prepares you to read the language of pattern with care and wonder. You refine your senses by slowing down and allowing complexity to simplify into felt impressions and intuitive hints. Practice deep breathing as an anchor, bringing attention to the body so external noise fades and subtle signals rise. With each exhale, choice becomes clearer because your system quiets enough to hear the energetic rhythm beneath events. Imagine your awareness widening like a gentle lens that brings pattern into focus without forcing a conclusion. The more you tune, the more you begin to separate habitual reaction from responsive alignment. This awareness is not passive. It actively prepares you to take small, measured steps when opportunity emerges. Moving from noise to signal sets the stage for reading energetic signatures. You begin to recognize recurrence when similar shapes of experience appear in different contexts, a pattern of resonance rather than exact repetition. Look for themes that echo across relationships, work, and inner conversation. These are the energetic fingerprints guiding you. Notice feelings, words, and images that repeat, and consider them as breadcrumbs from a deeper intelligence inviting attention. When pattern is acknowledged, it loses its power to bewilder and becomes an ally for navigation. You are learning to read the ecosystem of your life, seeing how small currents feed larger flows. This recognition transforms surprise into opportunity because repetition reveals readiness. Let this theme carry you toward deeper pattern literacy. There is often a quiet signal that accompanies opportunity, subtle enough to be mistaken for coincidence, unless attended to intentionally. That signal may be a peaceful clarity, a body tightening into excitement, or a dreamlike nudge that persists across days. Your role is to sharpen your listening so the quiet becomes audible and actionable. When this signal arises, it carries an energetic signature that will later inform the timing and kind of action required. Practice honoring small invitations rather than waiting for grand signs that rarely appear. Each gentle yes shifts alignment incrementally, building momentum for larger manifestation. Embracing the quiet signal completes this chapter's opening into pattern awareness. Choose curiosity over judgment when interpreting patterns, because judgment clamps down on exploration and hides nuance beneath story. Approach each recurring sign with the question of, what might this mean for growth, rather than what's wrong with this? Curiosity creates a magnetic field of possibility that invites new information and dissolves rigid expectations. This stance allows you to experiment with micro-actions while remaining open to correction and redirection. Each small experiment is data, and curiosity turns it into meaningful guidance without emotional derision. Keep returning to this exploratory posture as patterns reveal themselves more clearly. It keeps the invitation alive and your heart unclenched. Presence is the gateway through which pattern becomes perceptible and actionable in your daily life, a luminous field where timing and intuition meet. When attention is present, even ordinary moments hum with potential, and the smallest impulses carry meaningful data.
Practice arriving fully into now, noticing breath, posture, and the tilt of your attention as barometers for readiness. Presence allows you to detect the energetic texture of opportunities with clarity and tenderness. As presence deepens, taking aligned action becomes simpler because you are less distracted by hypothetical futures. This completes the foundational chapter and guides you into the field where patterns live and breathe. You are learning to see life as a field of opportunity where multiple futures coexist like seeds waiting in soil. Each moment contains a cluster of potentials, some ripe for action and others for patient cultivation. Shift your perception from scarcity to abundance, letting the view expand so that choices appear as a meadow rather than a single pathway. This wider lens allows you to notice adjacent possibilities that previously felt invisible or impossible. When you operate from field awareness, decisions become delegated to resonance rather than anxiety. See this field as your canvas, rich with texture and forgiving of experiment. Allow vision to widen and invite the first step into the field. Imagine the field as topography, where energy gathers in ridges, valleys, and currents that attract certain experiences while repelling others. You can learn to map these energetic contours by noticing where attention feels light versus heavy, expanded versus contracted. Lightness often signals alignment and ease, whereas heaviness suggests friction or misalignment that may teach rather than block. Over time, you will sense where momentum naturally moves and where it stalls, giving practical clues about where to invest attention. This topography is never fixed. It shifts as you act, rest, and reinterpret experience. Treat mapping as an ongoing practice rather than a one-time discovery. Finding the energetic contours helps you choose smaller actions that ride the current. Resonance is the frequency that connects you to particular opportunities within the field, the invisible chord that either harmonizes or clashes with your state of being. When your inner frequency matches a current in the field, doors open with less effort and synchronicities multiply. Pay attention to what attracts you with ease and what drains or repels, because these reactions are calibration signals. Adjust your internal frequency through breath, intention, and small practices to align more comfortably with desired currents. Over time, resonance becomes a reliable navigator that points you toward timely action rather than frantic chasing. The field responds to the harmonics you emit, so tend to your vibrational climate thoughtfully. This resonance is the bridge between noticing and participating. Opportunities rarely arrive as isolated events. They cluster like constellations that reveal themes and trajectories when observed together. When several small invitations point in the same direction, consider this a potent signal of readiness and alignment. Clusters offer multiple entry points into a single larger possibility, allowing for varied experiments and iterations. Notice the common threads shared by these invitations, repeated ideas, people, or feelings, because they form the backbone of emergent opportunity. Choosing one small step inside a cluster often shifts other elements and accelerates momentum. Allow these clusters to inform strategic, modest action rather than overwhelming you with options. Each cluster simplifies rather than complicates when perceived through field awareness. Perceived barriers in the field are not solely obstacles. They are signposts indicating where inner calibration or new information is required. When progress meets resistance, pause to inquire rather than forcing through with sheer willpower. Ask which beliefs, habits, or resources need adjustment and which small experiments could reveal a new path forward. Often,
A tiny change in approach or timing dismantles what looked like a wall and transforms it into a doorway. See resistance as guidance that refines your sense of alignment instead of punishing you for missteps. This perspective preserves energy and redirects effort toward elegant solutions. Barriers become teachers when met with curiosity and subtle adaptation.
You are invited to explore the field with playful seriousness, mixing intention with experimentation, so insight grows from lived discovery. Curiosity is the compass, and small action is the language of exploration. Together, they translate field signals into tangible results. Approach each invitation as a micro-lab, where outcomes teach refinement rather than define worth. Keep careful notes of sensations, timing, and ripple effects so patterns become more obvious across weeks and months. This practice converts vague longing into actionable maps and trusted habits for future navigation. Allow the field to become a beloved territory where risks are measured and joys reclaimed through incremental wins. Exploration leads naturally into the deeper skill of reading energy signatures.
Energy signatures are the unique fingerprints that accompany people, moments, and possibilities, carrying information about potential outcomes and required alignment. Learn to notice their qualities, warmth, clarity, tension, expansion, as reliable markers rather than abstract sensations. These signatures speak through body sensation, imagery, and recurring thought forms that pop up when opportunity aligns with your path. When you begin naming these characteristics aloud or in a journal, their meaning becomes clearer and easier to act upon. Treat signature reading as a practice of pattern recognition, one that improves with repetition and reflection. Remember that signatures shift with context. They are living maps rather than static labels. This clarity allows you to distinguish between fleeting attraction and sustainable resonance. Sensory markers are the practical clues that indicate the strength and direction of an energy signature, often showing up as visceral reactions in the body. Notice when stomach tightens, chest opens, or breath deepens. These simple cues are honest indicators of alignment or dissonance. Pay attention to subtle shifts in posture, voice, or timing when interacting with a potential opportunity, as they reveal unconscious responses worth honoring. Journaling these markers after encounters builds a reliable archive to reference when future signatures appear. Over time, these sensory markers become your quick-read diagnostic tool for decision-making. Trusting your body's language is not mystical. It is a form of embodied intelligence that complements rational planning. Sensory literacy transforms ambiguous moments into actionable insight. Each energy signature carries an emotional color, a hue of feeling that signals both potential and the inner work required to claim it. Some signatures vibrate with peaceful confidence and ease, indicating low resistance and swift alignment. Others shimmer with nervous excitement or tender longing, hinting at growth edges that may require courage and recalibration. When emotions are noticed without judgment, they act like weather reports for the path ahead, suggesting whether to advance, wait, or gather resources. Name the emotional tones you feel and notice patterns across time. This naming sharpens interpretation and choice. Emotional color provides texture and nuance to the simple yes or no instinct. Allow feeling to be both compass and informative map. Timing signals are subtle cues that indicate the optimal window for action, often appearing as shifts in momentum, synchronicity, or ease of moving forward. You may notice arrangements falling into place, doors opening with minimal friction, or repetitive hints aligning in a short span of time. Pay attention to these temporal clusters because they often represent ripe windows where small acts yield amplified results.
Conversely, a persistent sense of fog, delay, or mounting obstacles may be a timing signal to prepare rather than push. Learn to differentiate between impatience and wise restraint by testing micro-actions and observing outcomes. Timing is a skill cultivated through repeated experiments and honest record-keeping. Synchronizing with timing signals reduces wasted effort and magnifies impact. Develop a simple language or set of symbols to describe the signatures you meet, words like warm, crisp, heavy, or lucid that quickly convey the felt quality. This shared internal vocabulary helps you make faster decisions and track patterns across contexts. Use short phrases or single words in a pocket journal or digital note to capture impressions immediately after encounters. Over months, these notes form a map of recurring signatures and the outcomes they previously produced, sharpening predictive clarity. This practice turns ephemeral impressions into documented intelligence, making subtle reading practical and repeatable. The language you craft becomes a personal lexicon for navigating opportunity with greater ease. With repeated use, signature language becomes as natural as reading a familiar face. Calibration is the active process of testing signature readings against real outcomes and adjusting your sense accordingly, a humble and iterative approach to mastery. After taking small actions, reflect on results without attachment. What felt true, what misread, and what new clues appeared. Use this feedback to refine your vocabulary, timing sense, and action thresholds for future signatures. Calibration accelerates learning because it turns intuition into reliable data and intuition-informed action into predictable skill. Celebrate accurate reads and treat misreads as rich learning material that sharpens discernment. Over time, your calibration archive becomes an elegant compass for high-leverage moves. This ongoing tuning ties together signature reading and effective manifestation. Opportunity often follows rhythms rather than sudden eruptions. Learning those rhythms brings power and grace to your actions. Observe weekly, monthly, and seasonal cadences in your life, and note when energy reliably rises or falls. These macro rhythms interact with micro moments, creating windows where small actions yield disproportionate results. Aligning with rhythm reduces resistance because the world itself supports certain times for momentum. Practice syncing a few intentional habits to these cycles and watch how effort becomes more fruitful. This rhythmic awareness helps you plan with ease and avoid unnecessary struggle. Rhythms become allies when honored with simple, consistent listening. Resonant windows are short periods when your internal frequency and external conditions harmonize, creating ripe opportunity for action with high leverage. These windows may announce themselves through ease, synchronicity, or a felt sense of direction that is both quiet and compelling. When a resonant window opens, respond with small, precise steps rather than sprawling actions that scatter energy. The right micro-action in the right window often moves mountains because it leverages collective momentum. Learn to recognize these windows by testing minimal moves and noting outcomes. The pattern of success refines your radar. Honoring resonant timing multiplies the efficacy of each effort you make. This is timing applied with intimate awareness and smart restraint. Harmonic matching is the conscious alignment of your energy to the frequency of a desired possibility, an intentional tuning rather than forced effort. Use breathwork, imagery, and focused attention to shift subtle aspects of presence until your inner state resonates with the signature you wish to attract.
Visualize the texture of success, its color, feeling, and rhythm, and practice embodying that micro state in short intervals throughout the day. When your internal vibration matches the opportunity's field, resources and guidance naturally appear with more speed and clarity. This practice is not about pretending, but about honest shifting towards states that support effective action. Through harmonic matching, timing becomes personal practice rather than luck. Micro-moments are small, deliberate acts taken during resonant windows that create disproportionate ripple effects in your life. Choose micro-actions that are simple, measurable, and emotionally aligned, so feedback is immediate and learning is swift. Examples might include sending one thoughtful message, trying a concise prototype, or scheduling a short conversation with clear intent. These micro-moments accumulate into non-linear momentum because each one subtly shifts your field and invitations that follow. Commit to frequent tiny experiments rather than rare, grand gestures. Velocity matters more than size for initial traction. Micro-moments keep discovery nimble and reduce fear of failure through manageable steps. Over time, these become the backbone of reliable manifestation practice.
Calibrating timing is the reflective act of comparing anticipated outcomes with actual results, so future timing becomes more accurate and graceful. After each micro-action, record what shifted and how quickly, noting feelings, synchronistic cues, and external changes. Use this data to refine not only what to do, but exactly when to do it, because timing is often the determining factor in manifestation speed. Over time, patterns of success will emerge that allow increasingly confident, efficient engagement with opportunities. Treat calibration as a loving feedback loop, rather than a test of competence. This practice builds a temporal muscle memory that supports long-term expansion. Accurate timing multiplies impact and conserves energetic resources.
Balanced manifestation holds both surrender and initiative in dynamic tension, knowing when to release control and when to step forward with small, resonant acts. Surrender is not passivity, it is wise alignment that lets the field contribute while initiative honors your active role. Cultivate the discernment to alternate between these modes by observing when pushing increases friction and when action invites movement. Practice tiny acts of brave initiation when resonance suggests readiness, then let the results unfold without clutching to outcomes. This dance between allowing and doing is the heart of effective timing and creates a fertile environment for sustained momentum. Embodying both qualities brings effortless power to your choices.
Small actions are the scaffolding of profound change, subtle choices that steer momentum without exhausting resources or waiting for permission. Choose acts that are sustainable and easily repeatable, so momentum compounds over time rather than stalls from overwhelm. Small steps are also less threatening to the nervous system, allowing continued creativity and resilience in the face of uncertainty. When small action aligns with timing and resonance, its impact multiplies beyond expectation, like a seed that initiates an entire ecosystem. Commit to one tiny practice that moves you toward a desired outcome and protect its consistency. Over days and weeks, accumulation becomes undeniable and powerful. This approach reframes success as an emergent property of faithful smallness. Micro-commitments are promises made to yourself that are small enough to keep yet meaningful enough to shift identity over time. Choose commitments measured in minutes and repetitions rather than hours or outcomes to ensure follow-through. Micro-commitments strengthen trust in your ability to act and build a chain of evidence that you are a person who shows up. With each kept commitment, confidence grows and larger actions become less daunting. Design a pattern of micro-commitments that support your most radiant priorities and integrate them into daily rhythms. These tiny agreements are the soil from which greater expressions naturally arise. Honor the simplicity of this practice as a strategic path to transformation. Identify leverage points where small, targeted actions produce outsized results in your life, such as a single influential conversation or a minor habit change. Seek processes that naturally amplify impact. Clarity calls, short prototypes, or focused feedback loops that create momentum. Prioritize actions that unlock other resources or catalyze cooperation, because leverage is often about multiplying social and energetic returns. Use signature reading and timing to choose leverage points rather than scattering effort across low-return activities. When a leverage point reveals itself, place modest, confident experiments there to test resonance without overcommitting. This strategy preserves energy while optimizing for growth. Leverage thinking turns careful choices into accelerated progress. Iteration is the engine of refinement. Take small action, observe, adjust, and repeat until the pattern of results favors what is desired. Fast iteration prevents perfectionism from freezing potential and reveals what actually works faster than grand planning alone. Keep experiments short and data-focused, measuring impressions, outcomes, and emotional responses to each tweak. Over time, the iterative process reveals elegant, low-friction paths that feel increasingly right. Treat each iteration as a conversation with reality rather than a verdict on worth. This practice builds confidence and ensures that your energy is directed toward what truly moves the field. Iteration transforms uncertainty into evolving clarity.
Sustaining momentum requires tending to both productive actions and restorative practices, so forward motion does not deplete vitality. Schedule brief rituals for recalibration, breath, movement, or gratitude to maintain clarity and prevent burnout. Celebrate small wins to reinforce neural pathways that favor consistent action and keep the heart engaged in the process. Use community and accountability selectively to share weight and amplify insight without outsourcing your inner calibration. Momentum is not raw speed, but coherent direction, maintained through wise pacing and replenishment. Honor both drive and rest as partners in sustainable transformation. With steady care, small actions compound into durable life changes. The exponential curve describes how consistent small actions often produce slow results at first, then accelerate into rapid manifestation once sufficient alignment accumulates. Understand this curve as reassurance against early discouragement and a call to steady practice rather than instant reward. Track long-term trends rather than fleeting outcomes so you can witness the emergent power of compound effort. When the curve shifts upward, it is usually because invisible alignment reached a threshold. Your micro-commitments, timing calibration, and signature reading converged. Continue small, aligned acts, even during slow phases, because they are the invisible investments paying off later. This awareness reframes patience as strategic rather than passive. Exponential change rewards faithful, wise action over sheer intensity. Resistance often hides in plain sight, showing up as procrastination, rationalization, or sudden distractions that derail aligned action. Learn to trace these behaviors back to their root: fear of failure, fear of success, outdated beliefs, or unresolved emotions. Gently inquire into what each friction point is protecting you from, rather than condemning the pattern as weakness. This compassionate investigation reveals practical next steps for releasing whatever is blocking momentum. Remember that resistance is energy with a purpose, and its transformation opens space for new possibilities. With curiosity and discipline, friction softens and the path becomes clearer. Recognizing hidden resistance is the first step toward profound unburdening.
There are simple, effective tools for releasing resistance that combine somatic practice, reflective inquiry, and external restructuring. Use breathwork to discharge trapped tension, journaling prompts to clarify beliefs that limit action, and environmental tweaks to remove friction in routines. Small boundary adjustments and clearer agreements with others reduce external drag and preserve energetic bandwidth for meaningful experiments. Consider micro-rituals of release, a symbolic letting go, a short walk, or a conscious rewrite of a limiting story to mark transitions. Test different tools to discover what loosens contraction in your system with the least drama. Over time, a personalized toolkit prevents resistance from regaining habitual purchase. Release becomes a daily maintenance of clarity. Stories about identity and possibility shape how open you are to opportunity. Rewriting limiting narratives is a powerful lever for clearing resistance. Notice recurring self-talk that narrows choice and create alternative narratives anchored in evidence and gentle possibility. Use short statements grounded in truth, not wishful thinking, to reframe capacity and worth. Reinforce these new narratives through repeated micro-actions that serve as proof and through rituals that mark change. Over time, new stories rewire expectations and reduce the gravitational pull of old fear-based patterns. Story work is both psychological and energetic. It shifts the internal weather and invites different outcomes. This conscious rewriting frees energy for aligned action. Emotional alchemy transforms heavy feeling into fuel for aligned action rather than obstacles to progress, turning sorrow, anger, or shame into meaningful lessons and renewed clarity. Acknowledge emotions fully and give them language, then move them through body-based practices such as breath, movement, or creative expression. When emotions are processed rather than suppressed, they release their energetic charge and clear the path forward. Consider short therapeutic checkpoints or trusted conversations to speed integration when needed. This alchemy does not erase pain, but refines it into wisdom that propels more conscious choices. Emotional transformation liberates creative energy once trapped in defensive patterns. Make emotional care a strategic element of manifestation work.
Sometimes resistance arises from misallocated resources, time, attention, money, or social energy that need reprioritization rather than denial. Audit where resources are currently spent and gently reassign them to activities that carry forward your priorities. Saying no to some things creates capacity for high leverage, small actions that produce meaningful shifts. Notice how resource realignment affects your sense of freedom and possibility. Often a simple reallocation catalyzes momentum. Keep adjustments gradual and compassionate to avoid creating new resistance through harsh austerity. Resource strategy is a practical complement to inner work and multiplies the effect of small, aligned acts. Rearranging where you invest energy often dissolves the appearance of big obstacles. The balance of compassion and discipline is essential for dissolving resistance while maintaining forward movement with integrity and gentleness. Discipline provides structure and reliability for micro-commitments, while compassion ensures resilience during inevitable setbacks. Honor cycles of rest when needed, and return to practice without shame, recognizing that consistency is built over time. Use small checkpoints to assess adherence with kindness and a commitment to improvement rather than self-flagellation. This tender form of discipline cultivates trust between intention and behavior, which itself reduces resistance dramatically. Approach change as a loyal companion rather than a harsh taskmaster. The synthesis of compassion and structure supports sustainable transformation.
Your ability to detect signals and distinguish their nature determines the quality of your responses and the outcomes they produce. Learn to separate urgent noise from meaningful invitation by noting felt tone, repetition, and ease of movement. When a true signal arrives, it tends to persist and often dovetails with other hints in the field. Avoid mistaking fleeting distractions for opportunities by implementing a short ritual of pause and assessment before acting. This pause lets clarity surface without losing momentum and protects against reactive choices. Over time, the distinction between noise and signal becomes sharper and faster. Clear detection enhances response quality across life domains.
There are several effective response modes: immediate micro-action, delayed preparation, and deliberate decline, each appropriate in different contexts. Immediate micro-action suits high-resonance windows, where small steps catalyze larger shifts, creating momentum and evidence. Delayed preparation is wise when resistance or timing signals advise more readiness. Work before full engagement. Deliberate decline preserves energy and integrity when a signature conflicts with core values or long-term vision. Choose the response mode that best matches the signature, timing, and impact potential rather than reacting from impulse. Practice switching between modes fluidly to maintain aligned momentum without unnecessary risk. Mastery of response modes refines your engagement with opportunity.
When signals involve communication with others, craft messages that are concise, clear, and oriented toward mutual benefit, so response friction is minimized. Use simple language that communicates intent and next steps rather than long explanations that invite ambiguity. Timing your message to resonate with the recipient's likely state increases receptivity and reduces misinterpretation. If uncertainty exists, propose a short, testable step that clarifies interest and creates space for cooperation without commitment. Precise messaging is a tool for converting field signals into actionable collaboration. Practice brevity and clarity as an energetic courtesy that speeds outcomes. Thoughtful communication turns possibility into practical coordination.
Adaptive action is the capacity to adjust course rapidly in response to feedback without losing the larger thread of intent. Keep actions small enough to pivot easily when new information appears and remain anchored in a clear North Star so adaptation doesn't become drift. When an experiment yields unexpected results, shift with curiosity and low personal drama, extracting lessons and testing a refined approach. This fluidity multiplies learning speed and keeps resistance low because stakes remain manageable. Adaptive action is the living practice that turns theory into responsive reality. Embody this quality to remain resilient and creative as opportunities evolve.
Create simple feedback loops that capture what worked, what felt off, and what signal characteristics predicted outcome so future responses become increasingly precise. Use quick notes, voice memos, or short conversations with trusted mirrors to collect data without over-analyzing. Feedback helps separate subjective interpretation from reproducible patterns, sharpening your calibration over time. Let feedback inform micro-adjustments in timing, tone, and scale, and celebrate iterative improvements as evidence of learning. Over months, these loops compile into a living manual for working with energy signatures and responses. Feedback is the fuel that converts intuition into reliable skill. Clear boundaries are essential for responding to signals with integrity, because a generous yes without discernment can scatter energy and dilute focus. Define what is actually available to give and what deserves a guarded no, then communicate both with clarity and kindness. A boundary preserves the capacity to respond powerfully to high-leverage invitations while respecting well-being. Conversely, a wholehearted yes to an aligned opportunity creates energetic amplification and invites reciprocal support. Practice both boundaries and generous affirmation as complementary skills that protect your capacity for meaningful engagement. This balance ensures responses are sustainable and richly productive. Rituals function as practical bridges between intention and embodied alignment, anchoring abstract possibility into habitual structure and energetic clarity. A concise ritual clarifies priority, signals readiness to the field, and recalibrates the nervous system toward openness and courage. Choose rituals that feel meaningful and sustainable, avoiding complexity that creates friction or shame. These practices need not be mystical. A brief breathing sequence, a written intention, or a small physical movement can serve as powerful alignment anchors. When repeated consistently, rituals create neural and energetic pathways that support more reliable manifestation. Rituals convert wish into embodied momentum that the field recognizes and supports. Choose quick alignment practices that fit easily into daily life, such as a 3-minute breath and visualization, a focused intention statement, or a short movement to shift posture and energy. These micro-rituals create immediate recalibration and are easy to repeat during resonant windows. Schedule them before high-impact actions to prime clarity and reduce reactivity, allowing your micro-moments to land with greater force. Keep these practices under 5 minutes so they remain accessible and consistent, and pair them with a tactile anchor like a touchpoint or a sound. Over time, their cumulative effect enhances timing and signature sensitivity without requiring extra time. Simple rituals are stealth tools for alignment and momentum. Sacred timekeeping sets aside intentional windows for focused work, reflection, or rest that support high-quality engagement with opportunity. Create daily or weekly time blocks labeled for alignment practices and micro-action experiments, so your life rhythm supports rather than interrupts your growth. Treat these reserved moments with reverence, protecting them from casual intrusion so momentum can build and deepen. Regular sacred time also signals to others that your priorities are embodied and worth respecting. Over months, these blocks compound into durable capacity and refined timing sensitivity. Timekeeping is a ritual of respect for your process and the field that responds to it.
Incorporate rituals for release to mark endings and clear space emotionally and energetically before stepping into new projects or opportunities. Simple acts, such as burning a written worry, a symbolic letting go in water, or a 5-minute movement practice can create psychological closure and remove lingering friction. These rituals help prevent old patterns from reattaching to fresh beginnings and prepare a clean field for new signals. Use release rituals when transitions feel fuzzy or when resistance rises without clear cause. Consistent release practice prevents accumulation of unseen weight that would otherwise reduce agility. Letting go becomes an intentional craft rather than a passive hope.
When shared with trusted others, alignment rituals magnify effect because collective attention creates stronger energetic currents and broader syncopation. Choose brief, structured group practices, shared intentions, synchronized breaths, or short alignment check-ins that preserve individual agency while amplifying field coherence. Group practice can fast-track opportunities by creating communal momentum and opening unexpected cooperative channels. Keep gathering small and intention-focused to maintain intimacy and clarity. Invite feedback after group rituals to refine resonance and practicality. Collective rituals are accelerants for aligned action when designed with care and respect for boundaries.
Integrate rituals into larger practices by linking quick alignment techniques with micro-action and feedback loops, so ritual becomes a seamless part of doing rather than separate from it. Pair a brief breath sequence with a micro-commitment, then log results in a quick note as a habitual cycle that accelerates learning. Over time, this integration turns intentionality into default behavior, shortening the gap between insight and action. Ritual integration anchors momentum, regulates energy, and composes a daily soundtrack for manifestation that the field learns to respond to. Treat ritual as infrastructure for consistent co-creation rather than an occasional enhancement. When rituals are woven into habit, alignment becomes effortless and reliable.
Practical journaling templates transform scattered impression into structured insight, making signature reading and calibration easier to track and refine. Use a simple format: signal observed, felt markers, action taken, outcome, and next step to keep observations crisp and actionable. Consistency matters more than length, so choose templates that are quick to complete after each relevant encounter. Over weeks, these entries compile into a personal database of pattern, timing, and result that informs confident choices. Review your notes periodically to spot themes and test new hypotheses based on compiled evidence. Templates make subjective intuition legible and repeatable in service of manifestation. Design short experiments that limit risk while maximizing clarity. Define a hypothesis, choose a tiny action, pick a measurement, and set a brief time frame. Keep experiments small enough to start immediately and to pivot if feedback suggests a different approach. Use these micro-labs to test signature readings, timing hypotheses, and response modes without heavy attachment to outcome. Log results concisely and let curiosity guide the next iteration rather than judgment. This agile method accelerates learning and builds evidence for scalable decisions. Repeated experiments build the muscle of practical discernment and reduce anxiety about big commitments. Create simple timing checklists that help determine whether now is the right moment for action, including items like presence, ease, alignment, and external cues. Use the checklist as a quick pre-action filter, so you spend energy where returns are probable and conserve effort where timing is poor. The checklist can be binary or scaled, but keep it brief to avoid overcomplication that deters use. Over time, the checklist becomes a trusted quick read that speeds decision-making and reduces second-guessing. Review the checklist after actions to refine its items based on practical outcomes. This lightweight structure supports consistent, confident timing choices. Design accountability frames that honor autonomy while creating gentle external pressure to maintain commitments and gather feedback. Choose an accountability partner or group that values honest, kind reflection and shares a similar culture of experimentation. Agree on concise check-ins that focus on specific micro-commitments and measurable progress rather than vague aspirations. Use the frame to exchange rapid feedback to refine timing, signature reading, and action strategy. Accountability becomes a catalytic force when kept simple, focused, and reciprocal. It speeds learning and preserves momentum by creating communal momentum without dependency. Thoughtful accountability amplifies individual practice sustainably.
Design your environment to favor aligned action by removing small frictions and creating cues that prompt helpful habits without reliance on willpower alone. Rearrange physical spaces to make micro-commitments obvious: a visible journal, an accessible timer, or a dedicated alignment corner. Digital environments also benefit from streamlined notifications, curated focus playlists, and reduced decision points that preserve mental energy. Environmental design reduces the friction between intention and action so that micro-moments are easier to execute. Iterate on your setup as you learn what supports and what distracts, keeping changes small and reversible. Thoughtful environment design multiplies the effect of your practices daily.
Use quick reflection prompts to convert experience into learning instantly. What was the signal? What was the action? What shifted? And what next? Keep answers bullet-pointed and immediate, so reflection doesn't become an obstacle to action. These prompts help close feedback loops rapidly and make iterative refinement habitual. Use a set of 5 go-to prompts that become automatic after each micro-experiment, reducing analysis paralysis and enhancing clarity. Over time, this rapid reflection practice builds pattern literacy and strengthens timing calibration. Quick reflection turns each moment into a teacher and each action into a data point. Integration begins by harvesting lessons from experiments, journaling, and feedback so that insight becomes embodied wisdom rather than transient understanding. Review patterns of success and misreadings with curiosity and extract principles that consistently produce results. Write concise rules of thumb based on these findings to guide future action without reinventing practice each time. This harvesting process transforms scattered experience into a portable toolkit that increases efficiency and confidence. Treat insights as living artifacts to be tested and refined, not dogma to be followed blindly. Regular harvesting prevents learning from dissipating into forgetfulness and keeps direction clear. From harvested lessons, craft simple protocols for common scenarios, signature reading, timing checks, and response selection, so decision-making becomes faster and more reliable. Protocols should be short, intuitive, and adaptable, serving as practical recipes rather than rigid rules. Test and refine protocols in low-stakes contexts until they feel natural and useful. Share a few with trusted collaborators to get external perspective and iterate based on social feedback. Protocols transform learning into habitual competence, reducing cognitive load and emotional friction in critical moments. With protocols, your system becomes portable across projects and life seasons. Embed new practices into daily routine by linking them to existing habits so they require minimal extra effort and high consistency. Pair alignment rituals with morning routines, timing checklists with weekly planning, and micro-reflections with evening wind down to create durable systems. Use environmental cues and brief reminders initially to support habit formation until the practices become second nature. Over weeks, these embedded elements become part of the nervous system's default operations, conserving willpower and increasing responsiveness. Routine integration protects insight from friction and keeps your field reading muscles exercised. Small structural shifts produce reliable long-term change. Integration includes aligning identity to practices so choices reflect who you are becoming rather than conflicting with old self-concepts. Use micro-commitments that reinforce the identity you aim to inhabit, such as a person who experiments or a person who responds with clarities. Each kept commitment is evidence that reshapes self-perception and opens the field to new behavior patterns. adjust language, daily rituals, and inner stories to reflect evolving identity so actions and self-image cohere. This identity alignment reduces inner friction and makes aligned action feel natural. Identity shaping is a subtle but decisive factor in sustained manifestation.
Systematizing your approach increases reliability while avoiding rigidity that crushes spontaneity and intuition. Keep systems flexible and subject to periodic review. Build modular protocols that can be swapped or adjusted as new evidence appears, and schedule reflection windows to refresh assumptions. Use systemization to preserve energy for creative adaptation rather than limiting options. When systems are living and revisable, they support evolution rather than ossification. This balanced approach enables steady progress while honoring the wildness of emergent opportunity. Craft systems as supportive scaffolds for creative, resonant action.
Celebrate integration milestones to anchor neural pathways and reward the system for growth, using rituals of acknowledgement that feel genuine and proportionate. Mark small victories as evidence that your practices work and as invitations to further refinement rather than endpoints. Celebration energizes continued practice and honors the labor of inner and outer transformation. Share celebrations with supportive people who understand the process and can reciprocate recognition. These moments of gratitude open the field for amplified abundance and greater clarity. Regular celebration sustains motivation and reminds the field that alignment is pleasurable as well as productive. Expanding possibility requires gentle stretching of capacity so new opportunities can be held without overwhelm or regression into old patterns. Incrementally increase commitments and resource allocation as confidence builds, using evidence from your calibration archive to guide scale. Stretching is not reckless escalation, but measured expansion that preserves core alignment and systemic integrity. Pay attention to how increased capacity feels in the body and nervous system and adjust pace accordingly. When growth is paced well, it invites sustainable enlargement of your field rather than sudden, brittle spikes. The art of expansion is rhythmical and compassionate as much as strategic.
Opportunity often expands through network alchemy, where relationships catalyze resources and open doors that individual effort cannot easily access. Cultivate networks with generous curiosity and clear boundaries, offering clear value while protecting capacity. Share micro updates and small offers that invite reciprocity without pressure, creating a field of mutual support. Look for serendipitous overlaps, where skills and needs harmonize and test collaboration with short joint experiments. Networks are amplified when built around shared rhythm and aligned values, rather than mere transactional exchange. Strategic relational cultivation multiplies possibilities through collective momentum.
Resource multiplication is the practice of turning small investments into larger returns through leverage, co-creation, and selective reinvestment. Reinvest gains from micro-experiments into the most predictive leverage points to accelerate growth without overextending. Use partnerships, delegation, or automation to scale repetitive tasks, so creative energy remains focused on high-value work. Keep resource allocation transparent and responsive to feedback, so scale is sustainable and aligned. Multiplication is a strategy of wise compounding rather than blind scaling. With careful stewardship, small resources fuel disproportionate expansion over time. Allow vision to stretch beyond present constraints while keeping a grounded path of stepwise action that makes large aims feel attainable. Dream expansively, then map the first practical micro-commitments that translate vision into immediate experiments. Balancing visionary scope with tactical humility prevents overwhelm and keeps momentum steady. Use signature readings to ensure that larger visions carry an inner resonance rather than being purely aspirational. Regularly return to the field to test whether grand aims are met with ease or friction, and adjust accordingly. Visionary stretch demands both imagination and disciplined incrementalism.
Create conditions for serendipity by staying present, keeping soft boundaries, and exposing yourself to new contexts where unexpected alignment can appear. Engage in playful exploration outside routine to invite fresh signals and surprising collaborations. Small curiosity-driven moves, new groups, short courses, or novel conversations expand the field of potential without heavy commitment. Notice and record serendipitous hits to identify patterns that can be intentionally cultivated later. Serendipity is not mere luck, it is often the fruit of being prepared, present, and porous enough to receive. Cultivate openness as a strategic practice for expansion.
As possibility expands, prioritize systems that sustain growth with steadiness and ethical stewardship rather than short-term maximization. Create feedback cycles that check for misalignment, fatigue, or mission drift and correct course promptly when needed. Maintain rituals and restorative practices to preserve well-being across scaling phases so joy and clarity remain intact. Consider mentorship and community as resources for perspective and accountability during large transitions. Sustained growth rests on stability, generosity, and periodic recalibration rather than perpetual acceleration. Build expansion that enhances life rather than consumes it. Anchoring manifestation is the art of translating energetic possibility into tangible, lived reality through disciplined small action and clear structures. Convert broad desires into specific next steps and testable outcomes so the field can respond in measurable ways. Use the protocols and rituals developed earlier to stabilize the process, ensuring that momentum moves from idea to habitual practice. Celebrate progress without confusing it for arrival, maintaining curiosity for continued refinement. Anchoring is not a final lock, but a skillful arrival point that supports sustained co-creation. This final practice brings the entire journey into practical, embodied expression. Create maintenance rituals that preserve the forms you have manifested without rigid control or anxiety, such as weekly reviews, gratitude moments, and minor course corrections. These rituals protect the integrity of what has been created and make it easier to adapt when new signals arrive. They also provide a steady cadence of appreciation that attracts continued support and refinement from the field. Keep maintenance brief and focused, honoring the energy invested while leaving room for evolution. Maintenance is an act of stewardship, not ownership, and it ensures what is built remains alive and responsive. Through regular care, manifestations continue to expand in alignment. Consider the legacy of practice as the cumulative effect of small, consistent choices that shaped character, capacity, and contribution over time. Your legacy is less about singular outcomes and more about the quality of approach, the relationships nurtured, and the systems created that outlast temporary fluctuations. Teach what is learned through simple protocols and generous sharing so others can benefit from distilled insight. Legacy grows naturally when practice is steady, humble, and service-oriented rather than performance-driven. Use legacy thinking as a guide for ethical scale and sustainable impact. This perspective enriches present action with future-minded wisdom. Gratitude functions as a powerful anchor by reminding the system of what is working and aligning attention toward abundance and reciprocity. Practice focused gratitude for small signs, reliable partners, and lessons learned. This shifts the field's tone and attracts complementary energy. Use brief rituals of thanks after micro-experiments and milestones to magnetize further opportunity rather than merely noting outcomes. Gratitude keeps celebration integrated with practice and prevents success from becoming a source of anxiety. Let appreciation become a habitual melody that harmonizes inner state with outer progress. In gratitude, manifestation is both honored and amplified. Maintain a posture of continued curiosity even after major manifestations, because possibility is an unfolding horizon rather than a closed chapter. Curiosity keeps learning alive and prevents complacency from calcifying systems that benefit from evolution. Approach new signals with the same gentle inquiry and small action experimentation that served earlier discovery. Allow curiosity to guide periodic recalibration of protocols, timing senses, and identity shifts as life deepens. This ongoing openness nourishes both humility and ambition in equal measure. Continued curiosity transforms manifestation into a lifelong art of co-creation. As this chapter closes, carry forward a generative goodbye that honors both the journey and the unfinished edges that invite further exploration. Leave a simple practice or micro-ritual to return to whenever new patterns appear, keeping readiness alive without urgency. Remember that the field is ever responsive to presence, timing, and aligned action, and that small, consistent choices shape destiny more than rare leaps. Step forward with steady curiosity, tender discipline, and compassionate courage, knowing each moment offers fresh instruction. This goodbye is an invitation to continue crafting life with conscious, energetic wisdom. The journey persists in gentle, luminous unfolding.